So he's your nephew also. Oh. Okay. Jai Suparikar. Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Radha Govinda Jiu Ki Jai. Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Jiu Ki Jai. Shri Giriraj Govardhana Ki Jai. Shri Nitai Gauranga Ki Jai. Shri Nrsimha Bhagavan Ki Jai. Jai Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Shri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Jai Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Sada Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Srila Sarup Damodar Roy Ramanandadi Gaura Parsada Vrinda Ki Jai. Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Shri Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Govardhan Dvarashavanatmaka Shri Braj Mandala Dhama Ki Jai. Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Yamuna Ganga Tulsi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Giriraj Govardhana Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Jiu Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Ketra Dhama Ki Jai. Bhakti Vigna Vinashana Shri Nrsimha Dev Ki Jai. Bhakta Prabhu Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. Charu Dham Charu Sampradaya Charu Acharya Ki Jai. Akara Mat Raj Shri Chaitanya Mat Ki Jai Aur Ananya Shakamat Samuha Ki Jai. Shri Vishva Vaishnava Raj Sabha Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Tribhuvana Pavana Harinam Sankirtana Ki Jai. Tribhuvana Mangala Harinama Prabhu Ki Jai. Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai. Shri Sachinandan Gaura Hari Ki Jai. Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Pancha Tattva Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bo. Do you want to bring that other microphone? I think it should be there. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bandi Shri Gurun Dinataranam. Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Namo Mahabhadanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauda Tishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vrindai Tulsi Debai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I'm offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranams, my Shraddha Pushpanjali, at the lotus feet of my most beloved worshipable Gurudev Nitya Leela Pravishta, Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa, Asto Tarasata Sri Srila, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta, Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. Then I'm offering my same unlimited Dandavat Pranams and Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Siksha Gurudevs. Nitya Leela Pravishta, Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa, Asto Tarasata Sri Srila, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj. And Nitya Leela Pravishta, Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa, Asto Tarasata Sri Srila, Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering my Dandavat Pranams at the lotus feet of all of my Sri Sri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga. And my Dandavat Pranams to all of the Vaishnavas and all of the Vaishnavis. Sri Upadeshamrita, continuing with our discussion, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's purports to the two verses of the 6 favorable and the 6 unfavorable qualities mentioned in verses 2 and 3 of Sri Upadeshamrita. We can say those 2 verses together. Atyahara prayashascha Rajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha lolyamcha shadbir bhakti vinashyati. I'm going to say the line and you repeat. Atyahara prayashascha Prajalpo niyamagraha Janasangascha lolyamcha Shadbir bhakti vinashyati Utsaha nishchaya dhairyat Tat tat karma pravartanat Sangatyago sato vritte Shadbir bhakti prasiddhyati. You have the translation there?
Hold on a second.
Okay. You can speak it through the mic.
Never mind, I thought I had it on here.
Well, if you don't have it, I do. Oh. Let's see. I just don't want to lose the page
I got it now.
that I have it on. Okay, so you can read the translation into the mic.
The translation, verse 2. Bhakti is destroyed by the following 6 kinds of faults. 1. Eating too much or collecting more than necessary. 2. Endeavors that are opposed to bhakti. 3. Useless mundane talks. 4. Failure to adopt essential regulations or fanatical adherence to regulations. 5. Association with persons who are opposed to bhakti. And 6. Greed, or the restlessness of the mind to adopt worthless opinions. In verse 3, progress in bhakti may be obtained by the following 6 practices. 1. Enthusiasm to carry out the rules that enhance bhakti. 2. Firm faith in the statements of Shastra and the Guru, whose words are fully in line with Shastra. 3. Fortitude in the practice of bhakti, even in the midst of obstacles, or patience during the practice stage of bhakti, even when there is delay in attaining one's desired goal. 4. Following the limbs of bhakti, such as hearing, shravanam, chanting, kirtana, and giving up one's material sense enjoyment for the pleasure of Sri Krishna. 5. Giving up illicit connection with women, the association of those who are overly attached to women, and the association of Mayavads, atheists and pseudo-religionists. And 6. Adopting the good behavior and character of pure devotees.
Okay, that's from Gurudev's Upadeshamrita.
Yes.
So, which one are we studying now?
Sangha-tyagat.
Yes, Sangha-tyagat. So, we're continuing in our reading of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's explanation. And I'm just reading the last paragraph before we go on. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, by properly performing the activities of Tri Varga, the Vaishnava's character quickly becomes pure. And that was explained in the previous paragraph, how the difference between dharma, worldly religious duty, and paramartha, the duties pertaining to the supreme goal of life. In order to maintain his life, a householder Vaishnava along with his wife must, while observing Varnashram Dharma, perform the activities related to material religion, economic development, sense enjoyment, and liberation. So here it's telling that a householder Vaishnava, he must do this. That's part of his Grihastha Dharma. He must perform the activities related to material religion, economic development, sense enjoyment, and liberation, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, with the sole purpose. Can you remember anyone? What's his sole purpose in performing these?
Of practicing bhakti and inquiring about the nature of Bhagavan?
Not quite, but that's true. But here, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying that he's doing that. Material, he actually used the word here, the material religion, economic development, and so forth, right? So he's doing that, but with the sole purpose of attaining what?
That's the fifth.
Actually, here he's saying Bhagavan's mercy. This is always his aspiration, to attain Bhagavan's mercy. Nothing else. But if his home becomes unfavorable for spiritual practice, and if renunciation has thus arisen in his heart, he will leave his home. Now, by properly performing the activities of Trivarga, that's Dharma, Artha, and Kama, properly performing the activities of Trivarga, the Vaishnava's character quickly becomes pure. The purification process. Such a Vaishnava of pure character will faithfully hear, chant, and remember Bhagavan's names, forms, qualities, and pastimes with undivided surrender. It is the duty of the householder Vaishnava to always perform spiritual practice together with his wife in order to attain the ultimate goal of life. It is also proper for the wife to follow her husband and perform spiritual practice for spiritual perfection. Spiritual practice for spiritual perfection. And how does she do that? Assisted by other women, such as daughters she may have. In this way, the fault of associating with women will not exist. Therefore, whether practitioners are householders or renunciants, all are to give up the inappropriate association of women. Again, I'm going to repeat, as Gurudev always did. For the women, it means men. It means the improper association. So, by making this endeavor, the devotees will remain far from such association. So protect it. Protect it. Now comes the section, the bad association, kusanga, of attachment and the types of attachment. Now we are considering bad association in the form of attachment, asakti. Attachment is of two types. Attachment to that for which one possesses impressions, samskars. And the other, attachment to material objects. There are two types of samskaras. Previous, called praktan samskara, and current, adunika samskara. What are they? Previous is called what? Praktan. Say this. Praktan samskara. Previous samskaras. And current samskaras are called, you can repeat, adunika. Adunika samskaras. Current samskaras. Okay, so there are two types of samskaras. When impressions are produced as a result of the living entities performing the activities of jnana and karma under the influence of Maya, since time immemorial, they are known as praktan samskaras. What are those samskaras from? Those impressions are the result when the jivas, the living entities, are performing the activities of jnana and karma under the influence of Maya. Since time immemorial, those are called praktan samskaras. These samskaras are known as one's swabhav. So here, this is where we left off yesterday, that swabhav means one's own nature. So those samskaras, they produce one's nature in this body and in this body. Now, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, now he's going to quote from 5th chapter, verse 14 of the Bhagavad Gita. Nakartritvam nakarmani lokasya srijati prabhu nakarma phala samyogam swabhavas tu pravartate. Here's the word, swabhava. Shri Krishna is telling. So, the Supreme Lord, he's speaking, Krishna himself is speaking of Prabhu, the Supreme Lord, who he is, but he's not saying, I am that Supreme Lord, not in this context. So he says that the Supreme Lord, he has neither created the individual's tendency to act, nor the actions themselves, nor the resultant fruits. But we cannot say that the Lord has done this. Lokasya Srijati Prabhu. Srijati means to create, and Prabhu means the Supreme Lord. Na kartritvam, na karmani. So he has not created each different individual's tendency to act, nor the actions themselves, nor the resultant fruits. So then how did it come? All this is performed by their acquired nature. The nature impelled by the ignorance or the illusion that has covered them since time immemorial. So this is in the context of how do the jivas, how are their tendencies to act? Where do they come from? And then the actions themselves, and then the result of those actions. So Krishna is saying all this is performed by their acquired nature. And the nature impelled by ignorance or illusion that has covered them since time immemorial. Now, Baladev Vidyabhushan is being quoted next in his commentary on this verse. So Baladev Vidyabhushan is saying, Anadi pravritta pradana vasanatra swabhava shaddenokta pradhanika deha diman jiva karayati karta chetina viviktasya tattvam iti Baladev Bhasyakara. So this is the Sanskrit of his commentary on this verse. He's telling us, Baladev Vidyabhushan, he says, the word swabhav expresses here material impressions that have accumulated since time immemorial. That a living entity possesses a material body causes others to act and is the agent is not a profound truth. Wait a second, let me read this again. That a living entity possessing a material body causes others to act and is the agent is not a profound truth. Let's read on here to put this all into context. Now he's quoting from Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, verse 60. Again, the word swabhava is here. Swabhava jena kaunteya nibaddha svena karmana kartum nechasi yanmohat karishyas yavasho pitat. O son of Kunti. Now this is where Krishna is telling Arjuna at the end of the Bhagavad Gita that you have a choice to fight or not to fight. You have a choice. But if you try not to fight, what will happen? You'll be impelled by your own nature anyway, your nature as a Kshatriya. So, O son of Kunti, you will be helplessly compelled to perform that action which in your deluded state you now wish to avoid, because you are bound to act in accordance with your inborn nature. Swabhava jena kaunteya. Swabhava. Okay? So, you are bound to act. And this also means for everyone. Everyone is bound to act according to their swabhav. Now in Bhagavad Gita chapter 14, verse 6, jnana samskaras are clearly considered to be bondage. Here, Krishna is saying, Tatra sattvam nirmalatvat prakashakam anamayam sukha sangena badnati jnana sangena chanagha. O sinless one, of these three modes, the quality of goodness is illuminating and is free from vice due to its purity. It binds the living entity by attachment to happiness and knowledge. We all learned this way back then when we were studying what are the three modes of material nature from Bhagavad Gita. And what are their qualities? Now, Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan, he gives the following meaning. So this is referring to activities in the mode of goodness and also gyan, right? So he says, Gyanaham sukyaham iti abhimanas tena purusham nipatanati. Quote, therefore, such erroneous conceptions as I am knowledgeable and I am happy, these shackle the soul. Because it says here that this quality of goodness is illuminating and free from vice due to its purity, but it binds the living entity by attachment to happiness and knowledge. So here Baladev Vidyabhushan is saying this is an erroneous conception that Gyan Yaham, I am knowledgeable, and Sukh Yaham, I am happy. So both of these, they will shackle the soul. In this way, the samskaras are born as a result of activities related to jnana and karma that were performed in previous births. Those samskaras are followed by attachment. And according to the attachment, a person develops a taste for either karma or jnana. So the previous verse shows that the jnana of the Mayavadis is bondage. Now, he's talking about the other type of attachment, which is arising from samskaras. In relation to one who associates with the activities of karma, it has been mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 26. Na buddhi beda janayet agyanam karma sanginam jo shayet sarva karmani vidvan yukta samacharam. Translation. A person who is learned in the path of spiritual advancement through knowledge should not bewilder the intelligence of ignorant people by instructing them to give up their prescribed duties and to engage in the cultivation of jnana. Rather, by properly performing his own actions in a composed and a detached state of mind, he should engage such people in their prescribed duties. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is further illuminating this point. He's saying, due to the activities of karma, jnana, and so on performed in one's previous births, one receives either karma sangha or jnana sangha in one's current birth. Right? Because he performed those activities, now he's getting that sangha. Association of these samskaras is extremely strong and unavoidable. To get rid of them is not only difficult, but practically impossible. But even by committing suicide, one cannot get rid of them. Samskaras are of two types, purva, previous, and adunika, current. Samskaras created from the activities and the factors of one's previous births are known as purva samskaras. Adunika samskaras are those created from the activities and association of one's current birth. Because of these two types of samskaras, all living entities are wandering in the cycle of karma. All living entities. Because of these two types of samskaras. So when the living entity is not bound by the shackles of Maya, his nature is to be a pure servant of Krishna. But that pure inherent nature of the living entity is covered when he is ensnared in the net of Maya. At this time, he is incapable of giving up the previous or the current impressions. In one's present birth, one's previous samskaras manifest as his second samskaras. Again, in one's present birth, one's previous samskaras manifest in his second samskaras. So now, what's the solution? This is describing the bound condition, the various causes of it, the various effects. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Radha Govinda Jai. So this is a very relevant analysis. I wanted to mention that this is something that I noticed when I came into Srila Gurudev's association, particularly, over all those years. So the one thing I noticed was that, like his Bhagavad Gita commentary, when we compare it with Srila Prabhupada's, and also his presentation of the philosophy of previous life samskaras. Prabhupada didn't speak about this very much. Do you agree? Yeah. He didn't. And his aim and objective, especially in his presentation of the Bhagavad Gita, was to give everyone absolute faith that I should surrender now. Right? Not waiting. Not being dependent on what my previous life samskaras and so forth. Because he was coming into what? Mlecha Desh. The land of those who are totally outcast to the Vedic culture. And what kind of samskaras all these persons have from previous lives. So his focus was Cheto Darpanam Marjanam. Right? Right? That the Lord has given all potency to his holy names. Second verse of Sikshastakam. Right? Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis. Prabhupada's whole focus was to convince everyone to take up the chanting of the holy names, and it would be purified. And that's the fact. That is the fact. Now let's see what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is telling here. Sadhu Sangha, the solution to become free of attachment to samskaras. This is the solution. There is a solution. This unavoidable attachment to samskaras can be purified only by the association of sadhus. No other way. It is the only remedy for this great disease of material existence. I'm adding of material existence. He is telling it is the only remedy. Until one is purified from indulging in activities that have developed impressions in the heart, perfection in bhakti cannot in any way be attained. Again. Until one is purified from indulging in activities that have developed impressions in the heart, perfection in bhakti cannot in any way be attained. Here's the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 23rd chapter, 55 verse. Sangoya samsmriter hetur asatsu vihito diya saeva sadhu shukrito niksangatvaya kalpate. This is a very prominent, important verse about sadhu sangha. Now here it is. Association with materialistic people, asatsanga, is the cause of material bondage. Here, Lord Kapila Dev is telling this to his mother, Devahuti, in the 3rd canto. And he's saying that this material association with materialistic persons, asatsanga, this is the cause of material bondage. Whether one associates knowingly or unknowingly. Now, if a person associates with spiritually realized person, saeva sadhu shukrito, sadhu, If a person associates with a spiritually realized person in the same manner, knowingly or unknowingly, he attains freedom from material association. Nik sangatvaya kalpate. Nik sangatvaya means he becomes free from the effects of the bad association by associating with the sadhu. And now Krishna is being quoted in the 11th canto, speaking to Uddhava, 12th chapter, verses 1 and 2. Na rodayati, oh, this is a mistake. Na sadayati mam yogo, I think it is. But anyway, it's written here, na rodayati mam yogo, na sankyam dharma evacha, na svadhyayas tapastyago, neshta purtam nadakshina. Vratani yagyas chandamsi, tirtani niyama yama, yata varunde satsanga, sarva sanga pahohima. Here it is telling, Krishna is telling, the association of one's samskaras is extremely base. What's another synonym for the word base? The association of one's samskaras is extremely base. The opposite of elevated. Yes, degraded. Now, the living entity, he cannot be purified from the fault of that association even by performing virtuous activities like Ashtanga Yoga, acquiring knowledge of Sankhya philosophy, following Varnashram, studying the Vedas, performing austerities, accepting sannyas, worshipping demigods, giving in charity, giving donations, observing vratas, performing fire sacrifices, visiting holy places, and observing disciplinary rules and prohibitions for a very long time. Whoa! The living entity cannot be purified from the fault of that association, even by performing all these virtuous activities. We should know this. This is very essential to know the glory of bhakti, the exclusivity of bhakti, the power of bhakti, the power of association with a pure bhakta. This is what people that are entangled in the karma, gyan, yoga, they don't understand this principle. They think that they're becoming purified, but in actuality, the samskaras are not. Yeah.
What about, like, when we were reading Braj?
Oh, give the mic.
Oh, just a question.
Mm-hmm.
When we were reading in Braj Parikram about every place grants different kinds of liberation. So these visiting the holy places have so much spiritual potency.
Mm-hmm.
So how is that connected to this? Like, one cannot become free even by visiting these holy places, but by visiting the holy places you become free of so many.
Okay, we'll save your question. We'll get to that, but I'm going to complete the reading of this verse. Okay, so this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he's translating what Krishna is saying. Sri Krishna therefore says, he cannot attain me. He cannot attain me. That's the end of that long sentence with all the items being mentioned. Even by this, he cannot attain me. As soon as this defect is rectified through saintly association, I am immediately bound within the heart of that devotee. By associating with and respecting a pure devotee of Bhagavan, the faults of indulging in karma and gyan are eradicated. So just in regard to what you were asking, one time, I think it was the first time in 1994 that I went on parikrama with Srila Gurudev. And it so happened that there was an ISKCON publication at that time, which was extracted from, I think it was the Bhakti Ratnakara, but there's a section of all the glories of Mathura Mandala. Mathura Mandala Parikrama, I think that was the title of the book. Small, softbound book. And I was reading that for the first time, and I was very astonished because there are many quotations from Puranas and different Vedic literatures about all these activities of going on parikrama and visiting all these different holy places in Mathura Mandala. And I remember that I came when I was sitting with Gurudev, or maybe it was an opportunity when he was not lecturing or something. But I remember mentioning this to him, that, oh, Gurudev, I've been reading the Mathura Mandala, Mathura Mahatmya or something like that it was. And it has all these quotations about all the benefits and liberation and so many things that are derived from visiting all the holy places. And I remember Srila Gurudev, he gave me a corrective understanding of all of those statements. He was not denying that they're true, okay? They're true. But he also said, it is not for all. For certain particular individuals, so many different benedictions are there. He said, but we are not coming on parikrama for that purpose. Our sole purpose is to attain bhakti. And those who are more entangled in karma and jnana and so forth, like we've been reading, they become attracted by the promises of the Shastras that they'll attain particular material and spiritual benefits, you see. But for those who are now in sadhu sangha, who have embraced the path of bhakti, that is superfluous, you see. So now, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to explain what the fruit of bad impressions are. The fruit. That's called ku-samskaras, bad samskaras. What is the fruit of these bad impressions? Due to bad impressions, ku-samskaras, the propensity in the living entity for passion, rajasa, and for ignorance, tamasa, is strengthened. Can we not see that? If we think about it? Even in ourselves. But particularly when we look at humankind in general, that because of the bad impressions, so the propensity for acting in passion and in ignorance, this becomes strengthened by those bad impressions. Samskaras are the root cause of whatever tendencies in the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance are seen in a person's eating, drinking, sleeping, and other activities. What's that telling? Samskaras are the root cause. You can determine the cause by looking at the fruits, right? He's saying that the root cause, the samskaras are the root cause of whatever tendencies a person has in the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. These are coming from samskaras. And they are seen to manifest in a person's eating, in their drinking, in their sleeping, and other activities. And as a result of bad impressions, karmis and jnanis develop a mood of disregard toward Vaishnavas. This is a problem in India. Because of what? Why do the karmis and jnanis develop a mood of disregard toward Vaishnavas? Because of their bad impressions. And then they commit offenses. So unless bad impressions are destroyed, the 10 offenses to the holy name will not be completely eradicated. It's all connected there. unless bad impressions, samskaras, unless they're destroyed, then the 10 offenses to the holy name will not be completely eradicated. Offenses committed at the feet of saints are due to pride in karma and jnana. That's been stated previously also in this book. Why does somebody commit offenses? Because pride in karma and jnana. Due to bad impressions, blaspheming sadhus, which is one of the offenses to the holy name, enters the heart of non-devotees, and it takes up residence there. Due to bad impressions, the living entity cannot take exclusive shelter at the feet of Sri Krishna. Rather, considering various demigods to be independent lords, he wanders here and there, sometimes taking shelter of one demigod, sometimes taking shelter of another. Due to bad impressions, the living entity disobeys the spiritual master, blasphemes the scriptures, considers the results of the holy name to be exaggerations, considers the name of Bhagavan to be equal to pious activities, commits sinful activities on the strength of the holy name. This is all due to bad impressions. What is he listing? The 10 offenses. He's saying due to these 10 offenses, the living entity does all these, commits sinful activities on the strength of the holy name. He possesses the conception of I and mine in relation to the body and in relation to his wife, children, family, and wealth, and bestows Harinam upon unqualified persons. That's interesting. At the end of this list, it said here that due to bad impressions, the living entity bestows Harinam upon unqualified persons. Actually, what it's talking about is the offense of preaching the glories of the holy name to the faithless. All of those are impelled within the Kibana. So after listing, he says he thus remains intoxicated in the 10 offenses of the holy name. Type of intoxication. How can auspiciousness come to a living entity in such a state? So it is therefore said in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, Asadbi sahasangastu nakartavya kadachana yasmat sarvarta hani syad adha patas chajayate. They didn't print it properly. Yasmat sarvartahani syad adha patas chajayate. The purport of this verse from Hari Bhakti Vilas is that one should never associate with materialistic people because by their association, dharma, artha, kam, moksha, and also bhakti, as well as other types of objectives, are destroyed. It is only in the association of sadhus that one can wash away the flaw of taking bad association. And only through the association of sadhus can one attain all types of objectives. So that's quite a section. Yes, quite a section. How the previous samskars are related to our current actions, impelling us. Now comes the very beautiful section titled The Effect of Pure Vaishnava Sangha. It has been seen that for fortunate persons, the attachment to samskaras is destroyed by their spending a few days in constant association with pure Vaishnavas. It has been seen. Fortunate persons. The attachment to samskaras is destroyed by spending a few days in constant association with pure Vaishnavas. Who does not know the effect of the association of Sri Narada Muni, through which the hunter, Mrigadi, and the dacoit, Ratnakara, who later became Valmiki Rishi, how they attained auspiciousness? Who does not know this? Huh? Very famous. The following instruction of Sri Ramanujacharya is worthy of remembrance at all times. Quote, here we get some advice from Ramanujacharya. If you are unable to purify yourself by thousands of endeavors, then sit near to Vaishnav sadhus. By this, all your sins will be washed away, and you will very soon achieve all auspiciousness. I wish I had the Sanskrit. It's not quoted here. By staying in sadhu sangha for only a very short time, a person's mind is changed. His attachment to sense enjoyment is destroyed, and the seed of bhakti sprouts in his heart. Gradually, one develops a taste for the Vaishnava's conduct and behavior. It has been seen that by the influence of sadhu sangha, people have given up such habits as associating with women, thirsting for wealth, desiring sense enjoyment and liberation, being inclined toward karma and jnana, eating meat and fish, eagerly desiring sex life, drinking wine, smoking tobacco, and desiring to chew betel. And having accepted proper conduct, they practiced pure bhakti. This certainly has been seen. Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote this in the last century. And now...
2 centuries ago.
No, 1.5, isn't it?
Okay, well, you know what I meant.
Yeah. So, yeah, two centuries ago. So, he wrote this. It's like, he's directly saying, this is what's going to happen. And when the sadhu came to the West, the pure, effulgent, beautiful personality, Srila Prabhupada, everyone's life changed. We see how it happened by his sadhu sangha. That story will be glorified for tens of thousands and even hundreds of thousands of years. Prabhupada's coming. Because we're only like a little more than 5,000 years into the Kali Yuga, and there's still 427,000 years. And this is the special Kali Yuga, Danya Kali Yuga, right? Because Mahaprabhu appeared. So the story of how this happened on a world scale, yes, it will become the future unbelievable legend of the world, how Prabhupada came and did it. So now, it goes on. It has been seen that by being influenced by the Vaishnava Dharma of being constantly engaged in service to Sri Krishna, many people have become freed from laziness, useless talk, criticizing, and other unbeneficial habits called anarthas. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, this has also been proven in that time. And it's been proven ever since the time of Mahaprabhu. And it's actually been proven throughout the entire history of our universe. This is not the first time. But this is the first time in this Danya Kali Yuga, right? Because in the last 5,000 years since the beginning of the Kali Yuga, nobody here in Mlecha nobody knew any of this information. Yeah?
Just laughing at the dish.
Well, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just remembering when you were speaking about how the presence of Srila Prabhupada had purified people who were engaged in the most deep samskaras, just by his association, became re-engaged. I remember that Keshava Prabhu, who is credited with having begun the book distribution for Srila Prabhupada in ISKCON, and it's like a very Kshatriya fellow.
Right.
He won the international wrestling contest in Mayapur in 1986.
Wow.
So when he came to meet Srila Gurudev here in New Braj, he came in, had his darshan. He walked out of that darshan and said, I have not felt this for over 20 years. He confessed, I'm a pretty lusty fellow. He was engaged in a lot of activity at that time. He was successful, wealth and all that. But he said just by being in his presence, everything just went away. I felt as pure as I felt in Prabhupada's association. And he named his son, who took birth right after that, Narayan. He said to honor the present Acharya.
Wow. Jai Ho. Keshava Prabhu ki jai. He was the brother of Karandar. Yes, so influenced by the Vaishnava Dharma of being constantly engaged in service to Sri Krishna, many people have become freed from laziness, useless talk, criticizing, and other unbeneficial habits, anarthas. In this regard, we have seen that by associating with Vaishnavas, the wickedness and the desire for prestige, pratishta, in many have been vanquished. If that association is taken with some faith, the results are astonishing. There is a complete change in one's nature, and one's attachment to the material world is eradicated, as is one's greed for being victorious in battle. Moreover, by the influence of a saintly association, a king gives up his greed for his kingdom. A sense enjoyer renounces the desire to enjoy. A rich man abandons his covetousness for money. A lusty person completely leaves the object of his lust. A politician gives up politics. Jai Ho! A worldly poet leaves his passion for mundane poetry. A logician awakens from his dream of defeating the world with his logic. And a material scientist becomes a one-pointed devotee of Bhagavan and kicks away his investigation of worldly or atomic miracles through which he has led the whole world toward destruction. There is no other way but the association of Vaishnavas to eradicate attachment resulting from samskaras. Gaur Premanandi. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur is telling, I'm capitalizing on the last 2 minutes, carefully watching that clock. Bhakti Vinod Thakur, what a presentation. What a presentation. So he's saying that attachment to material things should be abandoned by everyone. That's part of the kusanga. One is to endeavor to give up all types of attachments to material objects. Householders have a natural attachment to their home and its paraphernalia, to their wife and children, their beautiful clothes and ornaments, their body, their trees, their animals, their birds, and the things used in their day-to-day living. Natural, right? Householders. Some people are so attached to bad habits, such as smoking, eating fish and meat, and drinking alcohol, especially in Bengal. The fish eating is the big one. They're so attached, some people, to these bad habits that these habits end up being substantial hindrances to their spiritual practice. Some people, without any consideration, they disrespect Bhagavan's prasad by eating fish and meat and drinking wine. The habit of constantly smoking is such a hindrance to the study and the hearing of devotional scriptures, and to the performance of kirtan, that such scriptures cannot be relished for a long time. People who are powerless against such habits cannot remain for long within temples, nor can they derive bliss from being in the association of sadhus for an extended period. As long as one does not completely give up attachment to material objects, one cannot experience the joy of bhajan. All these attachments are easily destroyed by association with sadhus. Still, one should endeavor to destroy these petty attachments through the practice of bhakti. These attachments can be vanquished by observing vratas that have relevance to Bhagavan. So that's this section. We've got more to relish tomorrow and the next day and the next day until we complete this beautiful book of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Gaur Premanande. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Radha Govinda Jiu Ki Jai Shri Gaur Arti Ki Jai Radha Krishna Jugal Arti Ki Jai.